Let's take a look at the Menendez brothers' birth charts. They're very interesting, and especially if you are studying astrology, there's a lot of stuff that you can actually learn from taking a look at birth charts. So let's start with Lyle Menendez chart. Personally, the first thing that I always look at is the ascendant, and then I take a look at all of the energy focus, and then I take a look at the big three. But in this particular case, the first house that I actually looked at was the 12th house, and surprisingly or not, there are some placements in there that are very significant. But let's start off with the rising. As you can see here, Lyle is a Taurus ascendant, which makes Venus the chart ruler, which means that Venus is one of the most important planets in this particular birth chart. Venus is here in the 8th house. Now, the 8th house is a very heavy house. It's a house about all of those taboo topics in life, which includes sex, death, all of these intimate, vulnerable topics that people do not like to talk about in public. But this house also has a lot to do with power, with empowerment. Many people's charts that I've seen that have had some type of abuse in their lives, it can be all kinds of different abuse, narcissistic people in your life, people who have power over you, who have control over you, or even violent abuse. They tend to have placements in the 8th house. But also the 8th house is a lot about transformation, very big transformations. With Lyle, you can see that he had a very materially good life, like he was rich growing up, and then he went to prison. So it's like a huge transformation that happened in his life. It's like he lived two separate lives, and that is a very 8th house thing, like this complete transformation that seems like you died and you were reborn and you now live a different life. That is 8th house energy. Now back to his rising. It's interesting because the moon is in the 1st house and Venus is the chart ruler. So this is a very big indication that the most important person in his life was a female person and the mother figure. The moon stands for the mother and Venus stands for female people in your life. So we can assume that the person that most really influenced his life and his self, his identity, was his mother. Interesting is that moon in Taurus is actually exalted. That is one of the best placements for the moon, but exalted does not always mean that it's good. It just puts a lot of energy in that placement. And this moon in Taurus is ruled by a Venus in the 8th house. So you can see that connection to a toxic relationship with the most prominent female person in his life, which is his mom. To wrap it up, also, the moon in the 1st house, this is a person who's very emotional, is a very intuitive person, and they usually express their emotions very clearly, very openly. You can just see how they feel like on their face. It's very difficult for them to hide their emotions. You can say that this is a person who wears their heart on their sleeve. And as we know, his father actually noticed that and tried to train him to not show his emotions. So this must have also been very difficult for this person because it's just something that comes naturally to them to show their emotions and to express them freely. If you want to see the rest of the interpretation, follow for more.